When evaluating candidates for their skills, you need to make sure you try and eliminate biases as much as possible. This is why it is important that your interviewers be trained and have an opportunity to practice. You want to create a candidate evaluation process that will be fair to the candidates, but also help you to objectively compare them as much as possible. To achieve this, you need to follow these guidelines. First, all interviewers use the same rubric to score all candidates. This is a document or an Excel sheet that has a list of evaluation criteria, a score usually between 1 and 5, and some relevant notes. Let me give you an example. A criteria could be how well was the object-oriented project design. The score could be 4, and the notes could say something like there was a good amount of objects and the design followed a clear structure. Second point, interviewers do not talk to each other about the candidate before, during, or after the interview. This is very important. Even a facial expression can greatly influence another person's scores and their perception of a candidate. Third point, during the interview, try to avoid any statements that might convey a strong feeling of how the candidate is performing. You want to prevent contaminating the objectivity of the scores. A statement such as, "You're doing a great job," will influence everyone else in the room who need to evaluate the candidate. Fourth point, score the candidate on their performance as soon as possible, either during the interview or right after. The longer you wait, the more tainted your scores will be. Fifth, avoid giving candidates the score 3. You want your scores to be clear. A middle score should be avoided as much as possible. Here's the scale system that I use. 1 means the candidate has a serious problem with the subject, serious enough that they might not be hired because of it. A score of 2 means they are going to have to be trained on this subject before they can be left to work on it. They have some understanding of it, but not enough to be trusted on their own. The score 3 means they showed an understanding of the subject, however, it was not complete, and they have gaps in their knowledge. The score 4 means they showed a good understanding of the subject. They will need little or no training once they get hired. And the score 5 means they showed an amazing understanding of the subject. They might be able to teach you. Your score sheet should rarely have many subjects scored at the level 5, hopefully no 1s, and very few 3s. Remember this important rule. You score candidates' skills on how well they are going to perform on what's relevant to their job, not some theoretical notion of how well someone should know a subject in your mind. You don't need the world expert in the field. What you need is someone who knows enough so that they can be successful and productive with what they will do in your company. Once everyone who interviewed a candidate submits their score sheets, each candidate's score is tallied and an average is calculated. Candidates with an average of less than 3.0 probably should not be hired. At this point, everyone who interviewed the candidates have a meeting to discuss who will move on to the next stage or get hired and who is out. This is the only time where the interviewers share their scores and impressions about candidates. This is a private meeting and no information about a candidate is to be shared outside of it. Yes, that includes even the candidates that are not going to be hired or moving to the next step. Always respect people's right for privacy. During the committee meeting, you want to ask the following questions. 1. If candidate received 1, 2, or 5 on a subject, ask the person who gave it to explain why. You always want to discuss the extreme ends of your scores since they have such a large impact on the candidate's average score. Second, has the candidate done anything during the interview that is of concern regardless of their scores? Someone could be brilliant, but it is clear that they are not going to be a good fit based on their behavior. You'll know what I'm talking about when it happens. These things are very clear. Third, is this person going to be able to perform the job we're hiring them for? And if they can, at what level? Are they a junior, a senior, or an expert? This is going to be very important when comparing candidates for possible salaries. The candidates that did not pass must receive a notification as soon as possible that they are not being hired or moving on to the next step. This is very important. Never disappear on candidates, and also always try to provide them with as much feedback as possible as to why they did not get the position, because this will help them in their job searching process.